So Ella and Tyler, I'll have Ella go first. Just would love for you, Ella, to share a little bit of your experience going through this last learning community and whatever you'd want this group to know about the impact that that made on your family and your movement.
All right. Thanks, Luke. Hi, everybody. My name is Ella Schroeder. For those of you I don't know, my husband and I are team leaders here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We have a little movement on 2 different campuses of about 60 athletes involved in some different capacity. And this is our 4th year running AIA Green Bay. And so we joined the learning community. Luke and Christina invited us, and it was really fun to just get more access to Luke and Christina and the awesome coaches that those guys are and wealth of experience that they bring. And for us, for Everett and I being the only staff in Green Bay, it was a really great opportunity for us to have more face-to-face connection with other staff. And so I wrote down 3 quick highlights about the learning community, and it's exciting to hear that some of you guys are going to be going in the next couple of years. So these are some things you can look forward to about it. Yeah, so as I mentioned, the staff community and just a time to like share the wealth. I know with AI, I mean, we joined during COVID, and so there was just so much virtual connection. And I know that virtual is great in the in-between, but nothing, for me, nothing beats that face-to-face other staff connection. That was a huge highlight. I know you guys mentioned this earlier, but it really did help my husband and I build a healthier staff life for ourselves. So that's the second highlight. There was a lot of teaching inputs that were high in vision, and for things like building rhythms of rest into our lives, finding spiritual parents. That was personally one that was a game changer for us. And kind of this concept of being a family on mission and what that looks like to have little kids or whatever age kids and like be a family on mission. The learning community really like breaks that down. It's high in vision, and then it's also, it gets really practical and has you like come up with like an action plan for your life. And then the cool thing about it being every 6 months is like you're saying to this small group, I'm going to do these things, and then they're going to check back on it in 6 months. So you actually have to do the things. And so that was good accountability for us to implement things. And so, yeah, then the third one would just be, it was really high in vision and training for building a discipleship culture of making multiplying disciples. Some of the books we had to read and the teaching inputs were just so inspiring and visionary, and like hearing how that plays out in people's lives, and like have their teenager kids like inviting people to lunch and getting like more people involved in things. It was just like inspiring to hear how it plays out in other people's lives, and it then kind of gets your own brain jogging about how you could make it look in your context. So overall, just a huge highlight. I look back in the last couple of years, and I think a lot of the growth and health in our movement is attributed to those every 6-month learning communities. So I'm really glad we did it. Thank you, Luke, for pouring a lot into that. And yeah, so.
Thanks, Ella. Thanks for being here too amidst busy schedules with your family and 2 campuses. You guys are doing a great job in Green Bay. And Tyler, I'm going to kick over to you next. Tyler also is very busy. He can relate to a lot of those things I was sharing at the beginning about LTL life. A lot of priorities on his plate, and he's taking an IBS class this week. So he's in between sessions right now, here to share a little bit with you guys about learning community.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Yeah, Tyler Stowell, LTL at Rutgers in the beautiful Garden State of New Jersey. Yeah, there's a couple of things that the learning community is not that I want to share, and then a couple of things that it is. So the learning community one is not a weekly meeting killer. As goes the rumors that if you do this thing, you're going to cut out your weekly meeting and Bill Bright's going to roll in his grave, and then you have big problems. Honestly, for us, this learning community bolstered our reason and purpose for having a weekly meeting. As we sat back and did an audience analysis of Rutgers and New Jersey, we realized that Jersey likes to party and have a lot of fun and really likes community. And honestly, when we did that, it was kind of like the scales fell off of, like, for those of you that know about our pizza eating contest that we do, is like, maybe that's why that's such a big win, like, because they just like to have fun. And so, especially coming out of COVID, we just saw cutting the weekly meeting would be the opposite of discipleship for us in our context. So it's not a weekly meeting killer. It's not a plug and play University of Minnesota success over the last few years. Right. I have some friends, speaking for friends, of course, who were very jealous of all of the publicity that University of Minnesota would get in weekly emails. And these friends of mine would wonder, how can I get in such emails? Oh, maybe we'll go to a learning community. It's not that. It's not just this plug and play kind of thing. It is very contextualized, and it's not immediate success. However you might define success, biblically or otherwise. It's just not. In fact, the first immersion in the first 6 months was about being a disciple. And it's like, dude, like, we already do this. We already are disciples. And they're like, no, we're gonna take time. And so, honestly, ministry wise, nothing changed in the first 6 months. Maybe even the first year, which on the back end of it now, I really appreciate that. Yeah, we just let this stuff seep into our hearts and minds and our rhythms as a family and a staff team. So those are things it's not. What is it? What maybe the two things we most took away were language creates culture, and that's not a new phrase necessarily, but yeah, just a common language. We realized that our one of the more impactful ones was actually at the last immersion, where we're talking about mission statement, and the presenters were saying, hey, your mission statement has to be both meaningful and memorable. If it's not meaningful, then, like, who cares? What are you doing? But if it's not memorable, then, like, your disciples and your students probably won't be able to replicate it. And so our mission statement, which is great, and there's nothing wrong with it, we just took right from the national campus mission statement. We were trusting God to build multi-ethnic spiritual movements so that every New Jersey athletic department would flourish and impact the campus community and world for Christ. Like, so meaningful. I loved sharing that PowerPoint at every fall planning session as a staff team. Like, it was glorious for me. But as I was sitting there and we were kind of mapping out how memorable it is, I turned to our first month intern. Like, this was August. Literally, he had just hit his support goal, was really close to hitting it. And I was like, his name's Tyler also, because that's a prerequisite for being on staff at Rutgers. And I said, Ty, just right now, like, how much of our mission statement could you say? And, like, if he can't do it, I mean, he's the one that's coming on staff, and he got like 50% of it. I mean, he got the gist of it, but like 50% verbatim. And it was like, all right, something's got to change, because if you can't remember it, then, like, what are we doing? So we wrestled with it. We really love Now in Solitude Community Ministry, up, in, and out is some other language for that. And we thought about, what do we love? We love Jesus. We love Jersey. We love whatever. And so we retooled our mission statement, not the mission, but the statement, and said, we're a community that loves God, loves athletes, and loves Rutgers, so that every Scarlet Knight knows someone who follows Jesus. And we had some sweet shirts made with that, a la Gary Sauer up at Bridgeport, wherever that is in New Jersey or New York. And we have said that also. I never said our mission statement at our weekly meeting, but we have said that every week for the last year. And I think kids are finally starting to get a little bit of like, oh, okay, that's what they're about. I also would have no problem saying that to our AD. I would never say our other one to our AD. He would just get lost in the weeds. That wouldn't mean anything to him, but I would have no problem saying that. And so that then has trickled down to just common language and common discipleship material with our disciples, with our athletes. We're using G2X. It was really hard for me to step away from the follow-ups. We used the old follow-ups as an ode to John and Missy Maurer, which we still owed to them, but we're using G2X because it's just transferable. It's hey, like, Bible study methods was great, but I am never going to have the time to teach an athlete how to do all of that. And so G2X is like, here you go, dude, take it to your apartment and run with it. And they did it. Like, they literally did it. And so we had more multiplying disciples this school year than ever. We had 7, and that surpasses any other previous amount by somewhere between 4 and 7. So you can do the math on the fruit of that, I would say. And so, yeah, this is probably the one thing, not that the rest of my life has fallen apart or anything like that, but we've been through some stuff over the last couple of years. My dad passed away a couple of years ago. Mental health and anxiety has been a really big battle for me of late. But this is the one area, like work, where I have felt most confident that we're doing what God has called us to do, which included us cutting out team Bible studies for the sake of discipleship groups and a weekly meeting. That's it. Those are our 2 programs. That's where we're trusting God. There's, that's stuff that falls out, but kids can commit to a discipleship group, or they can come to our weekly meeting. And that's what we do. Dinners, all that other stuff. That's all a part of it. But that's what I would say.